side hustles to women in 2025 are to sports cars and men in like the 80s and 90s when they'd have their midlife crisis.
I think you're
Exactly.
1,000%.
That is it. Nailed it.
I mean, I'm going to need to use that. That's a great branding tool right
They
there.
are Richard Gere and Pretty Woman. Like showing up in the convertible. Yep.
You get a business. You get a business. You get a business. Like,
That's
yes,
right.
that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing in 2025.
Welcome to Everyone's Talking Money, where we get brutally honest about money, mindset, and making life richer.
What do you see as the biggest misstep when someone tries to turn a side hustle into a legitimate business? And why do you think that misstep is so common?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, well, I'm Melissa. I'm the young one of the Business Reboot here. And
You know what? Hold on. Okay, well, I'm Corry, and I'm the emotionally stable one. So,
here's
there's
the
that. We
situation.
got that out of the way.
I cried at the gym one time, and I'll never live it down. It's fine. Yeah, I think that the biggest misstep is that they do not take it as seriously as they want other people to. We will get really passionate and super excited about the thing we're doing, and then you just expect everybody else to be passionate about it too. But then they don't want to do the things that are going to be businessy that they actually need to make happen, like creating the content, building out that personal brand, doing things that are going to actually create traction and movement within this to get it in front of more people. It becomes this disconnect between how much time they're willing to invest and how quick of a response they want to them just saying, hey, I've got this thing, you should buy it. And then when people don't respond, they'll shut down, close it up. And that's all she wrote.
That's interesting. So it's like, what I have is awesome. What I'm doing is awesome. You all should think it's awesome, but I'm not going to do everything I need to do or take it as seriously as I need to take it because I already know it's awesome. Is that kind of what's happening?
I think that's some of it for sure. I also think it's a capacity issue. I think that if you are stepping into the side hustle world, you don't realize how much time it actually takes to start a business, to run a business, even if it is a side hustle. You have to know what your capacity is, and you have got to be willing to carve out the daily schedule, weekly schedule, monthly schedule, whatever that looks like for you, to be able to get it up and running and then do all the things that you need to do to maintain it and to make it successful and thrive.
I think too that we're in this world where certain businesses that'll be I don't know, like multi-level marketing and things like that, where you kind of get promised if you just say yes, then the outcome is going to it's going to match your effort. It just happens. Like we get told a lot that if you have a side hustle and doesn't matter the kind, that if you just push the boulder up the hill, it's going to get to a point where then it'll roll on its own. But that's not the truth, because the second you stop putting effort into it is the second it halts completely. And this is like 20 years of entrepreneurship coming at you with that truth. And so the thing is when we say take it seriously, we mean looking at things like how much capacity you have, looking at what efforts it is, because you can be really, really excited about it and you can know it's awesome and think everybody else should know it's awesome. But then you get in your head that you just got to tell people one time, and why aren't they responding? And then, we have seen people whose marriages have been impacted by side hustles where they're like, my husband doesn't, he hates this business. And I'm like, why would he hate something that's constantly beating you up? Because you're just doing the minimum. You're doing what you're seeing on the internet, people saying that is a sufficient amount, and it's not working. But it's because now in this economy, in this era of our world, like it is harder to sell things. There's so much noise. And so that's what we mean when we're saying you're not putting in as much effort as you could. But it's not that you don't want to. You can have all the heart that you want to behind it, and care more than anybody else. But it's actually pursuing it from the business perspective that's going to be the difference.
So what's the first tactical move someone should make to start treating their side hustle like a business, even though they have a full-time job?
Well, number one is make it legal. Like, do all the things that you need to do.
Get that business license.
To establish a business in your state, your county, your city, whatever, wherever you are, make sure that you have it legal. Also, separate your finances. That is something that we will watch people do. They're like, what? This is my baby business. Hello. You have
Yeah.
to report all of that. And you need to make sure that you are not commingling money. So make sure that you have a separate bank account. Like that sounds very like, oh, Corry, everybody knows that. Let me just tell you.
They
Nope,
do not.
nope.
They
There
do
are
not
lots
know
of
it.
people, or they know it and they don't do it. So
Mhm.
we will definitely tell you, first of all, make it legal. That's your first, it's almost like that's your big girl step. Like make it legal, make sure that your finances are separate and that you are accounting for what you're spending and then accounting for what's coming in.
Yeah, and like to follow up with that, it starts from a base of integrity in your business. You want people to know, like, and trust you. Have integrity behind the like closed door, so that they don't even have to see it, but they know it's there. That's where your character is developed, when you can cut corners and you don't. And so, yeah, making sure everything is legal, and then really the one of the biggest roadblocks we see for people is that they get excited about it, but they don't want to tell anybody. They just want people to find them. And we're like, baby, they're not going to know unless you tell them. And so having to actually put the words out there, say, this is what I'm offering now. This is what I'm doing now. It doesn't, I mean, this sounds so like boisterous, but I could start a new business tomorrow and sell it like outright, like immediately, only because we've done this so many times. We know how it works, but it is as simple as just telling people and then asking them to tell people. So I think it's making sure it's legal and then actually opening your mouth to tell people what you're doing.
And do we think we don't open up our mouths and tell people because that makes us vulnerable? Like now there's a bullseye. Now there's people watching us. Am I going to fail? Am I going to succeed? Or what if I decide in a few months I don't want to do this? Are they going to think less of me? Why aren't we sharing this now with others if we're taking that step and making it a legal business, a source of revenue for us? Why aren't we telling others?
I think it's all the things that you said. I
Mhm.
think that people are afraid of failure. I think that they are worried about being like that imposter syndrome kind of creeps in. Like, who am I to think that I can do it like so and so is doing it? Well, you're not so and so. There's nobody that is you. And so that is your unique selling point right there, is that there's no other person who can do things like you do. And I think that we get in our own way. And when people say, like, I'm afraid of failure, well, guess what? The good news is, everybody else is also afraid of that. And the bad news is, everybody has a failure or two in their bag of tricks and stories from entrepreneurship. And so just know what you're getting into and know that you learn from failures as long as you're failing forward. And you can change your mind at any time. You can say, you know what? What I thought this was going to be, it's not working out for me, and I'm not interested anymore. Or I thought I was really going to enjoy doing it this way, and now I found that I enjoy this other piece of it. So I'm gonna, I'm going to tap in and push the gas more on this part of the side hustle that I really enjoy. And you won't know until you get in there and just get started. And I think that that is the thing that really becomes a roadblock for a lot of people. They're afraid of the unknown, and they're afraid of looking like they don't know what they're doing. And that's okay. You're not supposed to know it all.
I think a commitment issue too is a problem. Most businesses, like, I don't know, 70% of all businesses that start, they close within the first 2 years, because when it gets hard, people are like, I'm out, I'm done, deuces. But
Right.
so then when it's not your full-time job, it feels optional. And, not every side hustle that you pursue needs to be the thing that you're going to do forever. It turned out that way for us, but we both have subsidiary companies that we run that have now become the side hustles compared to the one that we're doing together. But we see people it's the fear. It is also the thing, those exact same things that you listed, the fear of failure, that will keep people stuck in side hustles or in businesses much longer than they need to, because they are still living in fear and afraid of what people will say if they decide that they've changed their mind. Like so it becomes this like weird juggle between I'm nervous to fully commit myself to go all in and talk about this and share about it in a way that'll be impactful and sell products or services and do that kind of thing. But then sometimes I get in there and I've made the commitment. I can't leave, and I'm going to let people down. And so it becomes this game that we feel like people are watching too closely, but the truth is they're not. They're too busy watching themselves to worry about you.
I try to think that all the time, just in life. Like if I'm going out or what, no one's watching me.
They don't
Like
care. Yep.
no one's watching me as much as I think people are watching me. So just do your thing, and and you're being true to yourself. You're doing the right things. It'll be okay. And also, like, I would imagine many people's side hustles are not carrying the overhead Like we're not opening up necessarily a brick and mortar store with
Yeah, that's not a side
inventory and
hustle.
all of this stuff, right?
Right.
So what is a side hustle? Because if you do either fall out of love with it, or it's just not you. You don't want to be out there. You don't want to be telling everyone all the stuff that you're doing. It's just out of your comfort zone. Whatever reason you decide, okay, well, I'm going to close up shop. What are some of the financial impacts you see on it? And what are some of the side hustles? Because you said opening up a brick or mortar shop, that's not a side hustle. What are the side hustles that you're really seeing now women creating?
We're seeing a lot of women consult. And honestly, they're doing it because they have the expertise, especially women who have been in corporate. But, I come from a world of education years ago, and, you're bringing in those skills and offering consulting because you have an education background. You know how to create curriculum, you know how to write a scope and sequence, like all of those kinds of things. Those are skill sets that women are realizing, hold on a second, I'm using this in corporate to make corporate a lot of money. I actually own these skills. I can take these and I can create something that pays me financially. It can be a little, or it can be a significant amount, to where it then becomes an exit strategy for them, whether it is an exit strategy into retirement, like from their corporate job or their 9 to 5 job into retirement, or it becomes their exit strategy because they want more time freedom, and they want to be with their children more and be able to make their own schedule, or to be able to, I'm not going to say travel, because that's also, I think, a myth that everybody's like, well, if I have this great business, I can just go and do and travel the
No, you
world. I'm
can't.
sorry. Don't listen to all those people who are drinking champagne and flying on jets, because
Everybody's in France this summer.
it's a
I am not in
lie.
France. I don't understand. Yeah.
But I think we're finding a lot of that is that people are tapping into those skill sets or prior knowledge from prior careers, and they're doing a lot of consulting. Is the first thing that we've watched women tap into. Or it may be something that they've always been passionate about, but they've been too afraid to stand it up on its own 2 feet. Whether it's something creative, but they, did the traditional 9 to 5 or corporate route. And they're like, I have this passion that is living inside of me, and I'm getting older. And if I don't do it now, it's kind of like a now or never thing, but they're not ready to give up and make that, especially if you have a family, or, you have a mortgage. You need a retirement plan. It may not be something that's ever going to be the full time, but it's this passion that they really, feel like they can't not do. And so they'll stand that up as a side hustle.
Yeah, I mean, and thinking about it from a even more practical standpoint, a side hustle can be anything from you helping watch somebody's kids. That's how Corry actually started her entrepreneurial journey. She was a teacher when they were stationed in Japan, and she realized that she could have a pre-K class that she taught on her own at her house, and she could make more money than she was making as a teacher. And so that turned into her being able to leave the classroom to start her own company that way. Or it could, I mean, dog walking services. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can, it's all the things that you used to do as kids, like selling seashell necklaces down at the cul-de-sac. Okay. Like anything that you can do that generates money, that can be your side hustle. If it's something that makes you excited, what ramifications financially are there from being done with something? Like, honestly, not much. If you, like I said a second ago, if you are opening a brick and mortar, that's not a side hustle. That is way too much financial commitment for that to be a side gig, unless you just got a whole lot of extra that you're working with, then we're in different tax brackets. But I am not the authority to speak on that. But I do think that if you do things from the very beginning, you pursue them legally, you set yourself up financially from the beginning to just be really smart, whether that be setting yourself up as an LLC or doing those kind of things to make sure that you've got proper tax filing status, then there's not going to be a lot. You can dissolve things. It's like nothing is permanent. I feel like that's another big fear, is people feel like every decision they make is permanent in a world where you can be canceled for saying the wrong thing or the right thing in the wrong tone. Like, I understand how people get nervous and feel like things have to be a permanent decision, but it can always be dissolved. So, it just is a matter of checking your capacity, making sure it's something that you like enough to do over and over and over and over again. And then what we see is a lot of times if people start a side hustle that they fall in love with, it always breeds more creativity to come up with other ways to serve women than that. And that happened with us. We're business coaches, but we started as a retreat for business owners. And then it started, another thing. Now we do done for you marketing services and all kinds of things. The creativity that you can get when you actually hone in will breed more offers.
Melissa, you had mentioned capacity. A mistake that people make is they don't realize how much time all of this is going to take, or that they may overestimate the free time that they have to dedicate to their side hustle. But Corry, you also mentioned like age, becoming a certain age. I have this genius in me. I need to do something with it. Do you find that there's an age that like a light bulb or like a fire gets lit in women and they go, I need to do this?
It's called perimenopause.
Yeah. Hit it and you're going to see. Yeah.
Oh, we're going to tell you. So
Yeah.
we'll just be super transparent. I will be 50 this year, and Melissa is the right
42.
old age of 42.
42. I think it's 40. I think that's the number. That's the
You
number.
lie. You
Yeah.
lie. You're lying. I do. I think that is, and I will say this: we have adult children. We have 3 daughters, and our last kiddos are graduating from college, and the capacity opens up to where you have more time on your hands. And I know Melissa said, I need the business reboot to become more of a full-time thing, because my children are now in high school and I can see in 4 years they're leaving
I'm going to
for
take to the
college.
bed.
And Melissa's like, I'm going to take to the bed and I'm going to need something to focus on. And so I will say that I also think that when you've hit midlife, and for those of you who are not midlife, we're warning you it's coming. But it's a blessing, but also you realize like, gosh, I have lived 40 plus years, and you turn around and you look at the first half of your life, God willing, and you go, dang, I've done some really great things. Or maybe I haven't done everything that I know is within me. And you look at the second half of your life that's staring at you, forward facing, and you're like, okay, I got to figure out a way to do this. Or I'm going to just let this dream die on the vine, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. And that's okay too. But I think that if you are a mom, let's just say, for instance, and I know not all of us are moms, but when you get older, it is either a time realization that time is ticking by and now is the time or never. But like Melissa said, we have clients that range up into their 70s because they have said, I've done all the things and now I'm doing something for me. This has been my dream. This is the thing I want to do. And it's now or never. But also, if you have children, as they grow up and as you have more time on your hands, then we are finding that women are more and more tapping into those dreams and those businesses that they're like, I know I can do this.
So side hustles to women in 2025 are to sports cars and men in like the 80s and 90s when they'd have their midlife crisis. Is that,
I think
is that
Exactly.
1,000%.
That is it. That nailed it.
I mean, I'm going to need to use that. That's a great branding tool right
They
there. is
are
what I'm gonna
Richard
tell you.
Gere and Pretty Woman. Like showing up in the convertible. Yep.
You
that's
get a
it.
business. You get a business. You get a business. Like,
That's
yes,
right.
that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing in 2025.
And are you finding when you're working with your clients and you're meeting these women that are starting this new journey, are they doing it for money, or are they doing it for their creative juices to feel fulfilled?
I mean, it needs to be both. Like if you don't have, if you don't have any kind of need from it, whether it be an emotional need or financial need or, whatever, like then you're going to give up real quick because it won't be worth what it takes. I think that what we're seeing initially is maybe there's a gap for what they'll need financially. Also, I think that like retirement and things look very different now than they did when we were younger, and like maybe our grandparents were retiring. Like Corry and I've had this conversation because her parents, they worked at one job for the entirety of their career, and that was like the loyalty and the pension and all the things, and that's what you did. And now, I mean, the next generation that's here in the workforce, they will leave you on a dime if your ethics do not align. And though that there are times where we're both like, oh God, but also, you know what, more power to you because you are not putting up with it, and I appreciate that. And so I think that it just depends on the person. But we work with a lot of people who they are coming into like that second season of life, and so they have a little more capital to work with, and so they are using it as an investment piece for themselves. They work with us, and for us as coaches, we go, any investment that you make in your business has to have a return. If you don't get a return on that investment. So that's what we focus on, is helping people make more money in how they're actually building these businesses, so that it's not, killing them with burnout, and also setting up sustainable systems so that it works for them when they're not able to do all the things. And so, yes, it is serving people then who in that capacity, they're looking for more of a creative outlet, but more so it's more purpose driven than that. It's that I've got this thing that I know will help people, and I am finally going to believe in myself enough to know that I'm equipped enough to tell them. And so I'm going to give it all I've got and just see. I mean, we don't have anybody that's got just an endless sea of money that is like, I'm going to just do this forever because it just feels good to be philanthropic. No, we want you to make money. We want you to care. We want you to, we want to be able to get your money back out of this. But a lot of it is that exactly what Corry said. It's kind of this blend between, I have been sitting on this for a really long time. I know that I don't have another full lifetime to leave to dedicate to this, but I also want to chase impact more than cash.
What's the biggest mindset shift someone has to make to stop thinking like a side hustler and start thinking like a CEO? So instead of saying, well, this is like my fun thing, this is my hobby, this can really be their bridge to potentially leaving their corporate job or retiring a little bit early, or giving them just this confidence and financial enhancement to their lives. So there does start to need to be a mindset shift. So how do you help people get there?
Well, I would say too, it's like anything else in life. You get out of it what you put into it. And I think that that's something, whether you're on a health journey or a financial health journey, like the more attention you give to it and the more consistently you show up to dedicate time and attention, then it pays off. And so I think that's a big piece of it right there is you've got to show up and do the work.
Yeah, I think too that if you don't believe in it, nobody else will either. And that's the bottom line. We prior to starting the Business Reboot, I was coaching and helping women grow in confidence in their business. And one of Corry and I's like giftings, as silly as it might sound, is that we really both have the ability to see the potential in people long before they see it in themselves. And it gets us in trouble sometimes because we'll paint pictures that are very big and people are like, I am scared of that, hard pass. And we're like, no, we can, okay, it's fine. But I think that they'll get really passionate about something to begin with, and then the doubt starts to sit in, or you get your first no. And if you aren't used to no, and if your skin isn't thick, and it's different than having like corporate thick skin, or like Corry was in education, like teacher thick skin, because you're used to dealing with the people yelling and screaming and and it's all your fault. It is a different game when it is something that is personally yours and that it feels so important to you to get those no's. And so you kind of have to adopt this whole like rejection is protection mentality. And truthfully, like, unless you want it to be different, it's not going to be different. And so we always tell people, if you don't believe in what you're doing, nobody else is going to. And then you just have to know that, if every single person that you encountered or pitched your services and they all said yes, you'd be so overwhelmed that you'd be miserable. And so just know that the people that are meant for you are going to find you as long as you're doing the work that it takes to get in front of them.
Let's talk about branding for a bit, because you're both very big on branding. Your Instagram talks about putting your brand out there, a personal brand, your side hustle brand. So tell me a little bit about what creating a brand is, especially in the age of social media. Now that people can learn about you just through some clicks and what shows up in a Google search about you, you need to have like a theme to it and some control over it.
Corry, you want to start? You know what? Let me start, because mine's going to be short and she's going to go, she's got a lot to say about branding.
One of my favorite things.
That's right. When we traditionally think about branding, and again, we both started in photography 100 years ago. That was our initial businesses. A lot of times you would think of, oh, it's my logo. Oh, it's my website. It's my this. It is so much more and so much deeper than any of that. It is your whole persona. It's your character revealed. It is how you talk to people. It's how you interact with people. It is how you make them feel. And so, you hit the nail on the head, putting it very simplistically by saying it is the theme to everything that is you. And that's also where people get in trouble, is because they're trying to disseminate information, creating content on multiple platforms, and they get inconsistent. And then on one platform, you're sassy and, yada in people's faces. And the next one, you're really sweet. And then people get really confused and there's no consistency. And so when we talk about building a brand, talking about building a personal brand, we're talking about showing up being consistent, and putting your information out there and basically teaching people who you are and why they need you.
And even if you don't have a business, let's come at it from the perspective of like you're in corporate. LinkedIn is a great place for you to create content and build a professional and personal brand, because you never know how long you're going to be at that job. And then if you happen to need another job, like whether it's your choice or your employer's choice, then people who, when you're applying, then they will go and search for you, whether they say they do or not. They do.
They're looking.
They are looking at an online presence. And like you said, everybody is Googleable now. I don't know that that's a word, but I just made it a word.
That's
but
right.
I even taught that to my teenagers as they were becoming of age in the dawn of, well, not dawn of social media, but they're dawning for them. Be very careful what you put out there, because everything that you put out there is attached to your name. And so not that everything needs to be a super polished persona. I think authenticity is reigning, especially in 2025. However, be aware of it. And I always told my girls, like, don't put anything out there that you wouldn't want to be seen on the front page of the Jacksonville Daily News. Like, I learned that a long time ago from a principal that I worked for, of being very aware of the things that you put out there in copy and also in visuals. But again, the brand that you build, it can be personal, so that then you have that platform, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, that YouTube that you're creating on, that if you ever decided like it's time for me to launch this side hustle, well, then you've already built a community. And it's not just people who are an audience sitting there watching you live your life. Build it with the idea of a community, because whether it is like, let's say you have a family member that's diagnosed with something. Well, you always can turn to your community and say, hey, listen, this might be something that we're going through. Has anybody else dealt with this? And put a question box up. And then people are always so helpful in saying like, hey, yeah, we've dealt with this too. This is what I would suggest, or this is what we've done. That is part of a personal brand, if you will. But it's a community of people that you never know. Somebody has a connection to so and so that you're needing for this, or as you start to build a side hustle and maybe grow it into a bigger business, well, you now have a contact here and a contact here and a contact here, because you built a personal brand that was more than just career-based. It was also part of your personal persona online.
It's kind of like setting the foundation of, if you're building your personal brand and it's like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, I'm good at this, blah, 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 this is my work. And people kind of think of that when they think of you, or vice versa. When they think of the industry, they may think of you. And then when you launch a side hustle, it's like, well, duh, I've been waiting for you to do this, because you've shown us for how many years that this is what you're good at and this is what you know. So that's really interesting, that it almost, that personal branding does a lot of the work for you for, could be for many years, even before thinking of starting a side hustle is even a thing.
100%.
Where though does it get? I know like authenticity is huge right now, and it's like, I feel like things are either super polished or like super hot mess with what I see online, right? There's no one that's like in between. It's like, yeah, today was a good day and I'm super polished, and it's one or the other, right? And I guess that's consistency. But where does it go from like, this is my brand, to almost feeling like phony and like put on and not truly you, even if the true you is polished and like in a nice pretty package? I feel like I when I'm online and I read things that friends write, I'm like, yeah, did you copy that from somewhere else? Like, I don't know.
AI, ChatGPT.
Yeah, it was chat. I will say that one of the best compliments that Melissa and I, one that we love the most, is that when people meet us in person, they go, oh my gosh, you guys are the same in person as you are on your podcast or as we see you on Instagram. And we were like, listen, we are too old to try to be any other version but us. Like, what you see
We
is
got
what
no
you
capacity
get.
for multiple personalities to show up on the internet.
Zero. And so I think that, again, everybody is different. Everybody has a different personality type. Everybody has different things going on in their lives too. Some people are more open and willing to share, and other people keep all the things tucked away. We are not fans of like trauma dumping and sharing all the things. That gets messy. And the way that, and you may not realize it, but as a we're looking at it from a business coaching lens of you can share hard things or you can share the messy middle of things, but not until you've had a transformation. Not especially from a business. So as all of you who are thinking about a side hustle, start thinking about this through this lens of that people can't trust you and have confidence in the fact that you can do what you say you could do as the expert or as the helper, the guide in this process that you're launching as a side hustle or that you're serving through or selling through. If you're always in the messy middle and you're always showing the hard, because that doesn't paint you in a very confident and competent light.
And
But
if you can't figure
share.
out, what to which is which, if it's too much trauma dumping, you ask yourself, do I need a GoFundMe or do I need a side hustle? And if you go, man, a GoFundMe would really be good. Well, then I'm telling you, it's too much. Tuck that back in.
Don't share that. Don't share that. Because I think people are always cheering for transformations. We're always cheering for you've come through the hard stuff, and we all go through hard stuff, and that's part of also the human experience. My girls, we were talking about the trauma being the buzzword recently, and I'm like, listen, nobody comes through the human experience without some form of trauma. Everybody's is different. It all looks different, but we all come through the human experience with it. It doesn't mean you can't share it. It just means that there needs to be a model of growth or some kind of explanation of this is where I was, this is what happened, but this is how I triumphed, or this is how we came through it. That builds community. That also builds know, like, and trust factors. And if you're looking at being an authority or consulting or having some sort of side hustle, that is an important piece of that brand building. And I don't think that everybody needs to live their life through this lens of like, well, this will affect my brand. But I do think that you do have to look at when you're sharing online to be aware and mindful of the, if you're getting into a political rant and a fight with somebody in a Facebook chat, like, does that really paint you and what you're building in the best light? Likely no.
I think too, people know when it's inauthentic. Like when you start to feel like it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, that's when you know, like it's time to redo. If your friends who know you the most can look at your stuff and go, who is that? I don't know that person. That's a huge sign that you're stepping into kind of some super muddy waters when it comes to showing up authentically. And again, that word is becoming like a buzzword too, but it is very much true that it if you just show up as yourself, like that is your superpower. If you're willing to embrace it. And when Corry and I started this business, we originally started the Business Reboot because we had been within circles of industries. We had built the retreats. We had served at the retreats. We had hosted the events. We had led the conferences. We had, done every single thing you could possibly, spoken on all the big stages, but we watched and it was the same people over and over and over again. And we were like, there need to be new faces here. How do we make that happen? And so we were like, well, we don't know. So let's just make it happen ourselves. And so it was one of those where I said, what I'm not going to do this time is I don't want to dampen the parts of me that I'm just now comfortable with. Like, we're going to cuss a little bit. We really love Jesus, but we're going to say some stuff. We're going to be really honest with people. And if we can't be funny and goofy and like humble at the same time, like I'm not doing it. I don't care to have to preface myself in a way that would make me feel like I'm back where we left. And she was like, that's all we can do. That's like, handshake on it. We're good. And that was how we built this particular brand. And so I think that you have to know yourself. You have to know what you don't want to be in order to be what you want to be. And when it starts to feel like it's a lot of work, we've recently heard a sermon where it was talking about how the pillar will move, like the pillar in the Bible that you like follow. And it's like, well, when it suddenly something that felt really easy all the time for you to do, even though it wasn't easy, but for you, it was easy. When it starts to feel hard, maybe that pillar's moved and you need to follow it and say it's time for this to go. And that's really kind of what we live by, and what we tell our clients is, show up as yourself. And when you hit the wall and you feel like this is a lot of work, then you've tap danced somewhere you probably shouldn't be.
So what are some of the rules or first steps someone should take if they want to build a brand, whether they have a side hustle, they're thinking about it, or they just want to prime the pump, if you will, and say, I might want to do this in 5 years. Let me start getting like my foundation together now. So when I do start something, people are like, duh, yay, we've been waiting for this. Obviously, we're not yelling at anyone on social media. We're not arguing with strangers. What do you want to put out there? We're not airing all of our dirty laundry. It's more of a here's my struggle, here's a struggle, here's my journey, here's how I came out triumphant. But like, what else should be done? Like aesthetically, what needs to be done? What are some like simple steps we could take to help build our brand? Because, we went right to online, right? Because everything's online. That's the only way people know us anymore is online. But then also like in person, is there things that we can do to help build that brand in front of people?
Right. I'll talk to the in-person part. We actually have a podcast episode on our Business Reboot podcast. It's called Shake a Damn Hand. Like, get out there and network, whether it's you're volunteering for an organization that's close to your heart. You're going to meet other people there who are similar to you and will get to know you in that serving capacity. Maybe it's sitting on the board at the hospital that's in your city or your town. Maybe, whatever it is, get out there and get into some groups of people and start talking about the things that you love to do. And if you have the intention of building something on the side, get in the rooms, get yourself in the rooms, start learning as much as you possibly can in the area of expertise that you already are an expert in. But if you're going to want to monetize that, start learning from people that feel like it's a good fit, whether it's in an online capacity or sign up for a workshop. For an in-person advice, that's what I would say is definitely volunteer, get on some boards, attend some workshops, retreats, conferences, those types of things, and start learning. I will make this the caveat though. I'm a lifelong learner. So the education side of me is always like, I love to learn, but don't get stuck in that hamster wheel of you're like, I don't know enough yet. I have to go to one more conference. I have to go. I'm not saying do that. That is the wrong thing to do, because that will be a mindset shift that needs to happen, is that you're never going to know it all. Just get started. You're going to learn what you need at the next season, in the next season, and at the next step. Melissa, do you want to talk a little bit more about the practical things too?
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to online, just start sharing, just start posting, creating content, which sounds like such an influencer thing to do. But we tell business owners, you're going to have to do two things until you're dead. You got to pay taxes and you got to create content, and that is it. But the truth is just show up in the places where you can for free, which would be social media platforms, and start putting things that are important to you out there. It could be you showing your daily life, with you and your kids at the park, or it could be you sharing a favorite recipe, or whatever it is that let people get to know you. That's what it is. That is your mirror where you get to practice talking to yourself. We tell clients who have really they wear discomfort for the internet and being on camera, on their face, they look terrified. And we're like, baby, you're just talking to yourself. That's all you need to do is look at yourself and have a conversation. Now, I was an only child who used to record Part Plus commercials in my bathroom when I was 8. So I have no problem talking to myself, but I'm like, not everyone had that experience. It's fine. But really I think it's just getting the pieces of you that you're okay to show people out there, and doing it over and over and over again. We actually just recorded our own podcast episode talking about consistency and creating content. And we were like, confidence looks like you either are born with it or you're not, but really it comes from repeating yourself, repeating the processes over and over and over again, so much to the point that you know what the outcome is going to be. So it makes the wait for the success a lot easier, because oh, this is just a dip, give it a minute and it's going to be right back up. And you go, there it is. Okay. It's like the tide coming in and out. If you wait long enough, it's going to come back, calm down, it'll be there. And so it's really that builds your chops more than anything, is just putting yourself out there and sharing the things that are important to you that will eventually become the platform.
Mm-hmm. I think too, real quick, I started my photography business in 2008, before I think Instagram existed. Don't quote me on that, but it was really the only thing that I created, or I started when I started the quote unquote side hustle, was I was showing pictures. So I would do a photo shoot for a family, and then I would get on Facebook.
I had a photo album. we toted.
I toted it in my purse to the grocery store, in my covered wagon. It's fine, but I would simply just post the pictures that we had done from the photo shoot, and then of course the client would share them all over the internet, so that Aunt Sally could see, and Uncle Mike could see, and then their network, their immediate network, then started saying like, oh, who did these photos? Oh, Corry Frazier Photography did those. Oh my gosh. Okay. Then I started getting those phone calls. And it was just the simple share of, hey, this is what I do. And I think that if you're wanting to start building a personal brand and a brand that you know you want to transition into some sort of financial gain, start talking about ways that you help people. So let's say that you have a 9-to-5 or you have a corporate job and you're like, I think that I'm going to want to do some kind of consulting on the side and build something so that when I retire, I have consulting clients or I have people that I can help over here. So start posting things that are helpful tips that everybody needs to know. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could literally start as, hey, did you know? Like, hey, did you know? Simple things that are helping people. And I think that when we look at sales and people are like, I hate showing up because I feel like I'm being salesy or I feel like I'm always pitching. Stop looking at it as you're selling and start looking at it as you're serving, because there's somebody out there that needs to know what you know or how to do what you do. Like Melissa said, it could be a recipe. Maybe you want to end up being, you want to have an online blog that you monetize and you fill it with your recipes. Start sharing some really easy recipes. It's just simply getting started.